Hi class, today we're going to review solving quadratic equations. You should have learned this already in algebra, but most likely if this was just to pop up in the middle of a problem, middle of a section, an assignment, then it might catch you off guard. So, good idea to refresh your memory on how these things work. So, first of all, if we're working with quadratic equations, your equation will be in this kind of a form. This is a 0 at the end that got cut off. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So notice there's a squared term in here. You'll run into it in problems like this. It says triangle ABC is isosceles with, this is A, B, C, with segment AB congruent to segment AC, and you're supposed to solve for x. So you think, okay, no problem. I set this equal to this, and I get x squared minus 5x equals 6. Now what do you do? So that's what we're going to review real quickly. The first thing you're going to need to do is get that equation into this standard form. So we need to move the 6 over to that side, and we'll have x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. At any time during this video, if you need to stop the tape or stop it, pause and get caught up on the notes, get things written down, and then hit play again so you can continue along. So I'm not going to slow down and wait for you like I would normally in class. I'll just put it up to you to hit the pause when you need to. Anyway, so factoring. To factor this, then, what we're going to do is look for two numbers that multiply together, two things that multiply together to give us this quadratic equation. We know that the factor of the first thing goes in here, so that's kind of easy, an x and an x. Then we need factors of this number at the end. They're going to go in here and in here, but there's a trick to that, because the factors that we put in here are going to have to work out to give us a sum of -5. Okay, well, if you remember back when you did FOIL, if you take the O and the I, the outside and the inside, here's my outside, here's my inside. When I put those together, that gives me this middle term. So you can't just throw in any old factors. What we're going to do is take a look at all the factors of -6, and we'd have factors like 1 and -6. One's positive, one's negative. -1 and +6. 2 and -3. -2, +3. And then we want the sum to be -5. So if I look at the sums, well, this is -5. Are they all -5? No. This one's +5, -1, +1. So there is the combination that's going to work for us right away. We're going to take 1, put it in here. We're going to take the -6, put it in here. And there's our factored form. Then what we're going to do is, I just draw a little squiggle down the middle here, and I need to solve for x. So I'm going to say x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 6 equals 0. Move the 1 over, or subtract 1 from both sides. I get x equals -1, and x equals 6. And those are my two answers. Now, a nice thing about this, I can plug it back in again to check. If I put -1 in here, square it is 1, minus 5 times -1, so minus a -5, which gives me 6, and equals that side. If I put 6 in here, I get 36 minus 30. Of course, that's 6, and matches that side as well. Alright, second option, besides factoring then, is the quadratic formula. And for the quadratic formula, you will have to actually know the formula, which, once I start going through it, probably will ring a bell for you. X equals -b plus or minus, can you rattle it off from here now? Square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I think if you had Mrs. Ryan last year, she probably played the quadratic formula song for you. You can find it on YouTube probably if you need to. So take my equation. I'm going to use the same equation I had up here. X squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. And what I need to do is find those letters, the a's, the b's, the c's. Well, it's actually remember we had up at the top, I'll rewrite it here, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A is the leading coefficient, which is 1. B is negative 5. C is negative 6. And we're going to throw those numbers into this formula and get the answer. X equals, some people like the quadratic formula more because it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to guess and check with things. You just take your numbers, throw them into that equation. Some don't like it because it's a lot of work too. Negative b, so the opposite of b would be 5, plus or minus the square root of 25, that's b squared. Don't do it on your calculator because some calculators aren't programmed to do the order of operations right. So it would give you an answer of negative 25. So don't do that. Just do it in your head. 4a c all over 2a, which is just 1. Then simplify it. X equals 5 plus or minus the square root of. Now when we do this, negative 4 times negative 6 is a positive 24. Negative and a negative gives positive, and it's going to change to a positive 24. So 25 and 24 is 49 divided by 2. And then we got two different answers. X equals 5 plus square root of 49. Now that's just 7, right? So let me do this. I'll write this step out first. Then we'll work out the two parts. So 5 plus 7 divided by 2. 5 and 7 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. And x equals 5 minus 7 divided by 2. Well, 5 minus 7 is negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Notice we got the same answers as we had up above with the factoring method. Okay, last thing to take a look at is what if a is not 1 and you're still supposed to factor it? So first thing again, you need to get it into standard form. I'm going to rearrange this, move the 3t over, move the 8 over, and I'll get 5t squared plus 3t minus 8 equals 0. Okay, again remember, pause the tape if you need to take some time to write something out or if I'm going too fast for you. So next, again, this is our ax squared bx c, and we're going to try to factor it. So to factor this, we want the factors of 5t squared. Well, we don't have too many choices for that. 5 and 1 or 1 and 5. So I'm just going to go 5t, t. Then I need factors of 8. They're going to go here and here, but when I do the outside and the inside, I need to get a sum of positive 3. So we're going to have to play around with our combinations again. If you look at your factors of 8, you have 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. Because this is negative, 1 will be positive, 1 will be negative. Okay, and I don't really worry about that too much yet. I'll wait and deal with that once I get my numbers in there. So I like to use a pencil for this so that in case I want to rearrange and change to a different combination, I can do that pretty easily. If I start with the factors of 1 and 8, I will get, actually I'm going to do it backwards so that you can see it doesn't work at first and I got to rearrange. So if I put an 8 in here and a 1 in here, I'm going to end up, oops, wait a minute, I'm going to go 1. I got to make sure this isn't going to work. 1 and an 8, and if I do that first, what I end up with is a 1t and a 40t. Well, that's definitely not going to give me the 3 that I wanted in there. So now let me rearrange those, get rid of these, and let's try this instead. Let's put in 8 and 1. So now I have 8t and 5t. And see, there's no magic way of just getting the answer right away. You have to do some guess and check on these. That works because, remember, 1 has to be positive, 1 negative. So if I make this one negative, this one positive, look what happens. When I put those together, I get my 3t in the middle. So I'm going to go back and put that in there. This will be negative 5t, so I need a negative there. I need a positive here. And then I'm ready to set them each equal to 0. I kind of lost that step back here. Equals 0. Now put your little squiggly down the middle. Since I'm running out of room, I'll go up here and do it. 5t plus 8 equals 0, and t minus 1 equals 0. Move the 8 over, divide by 5, and this one, move the 1 over, and t equals 1. So those are my two answers. Okay, now if you go to your worksheet, today your assignment is going to be to do the worksheet, and there are a couple of book pages to go with that as well. I believe it is assignment number 6. Cross off where it says proof worksheet. We're not doing that one yet. We're actually going to do a quadratic worksheet instead. And then page 266, 1 to 4. And your worksheet will look like this. You're going to have one side of the worksheet will say to solve by factoring. The other side is going to say solve using the quadratic formula. Okay, let's start with a couple of problems here on the factoring side. So factoring says rearrange the equation, then solve by factoring. Write the word next to the answer in the box that contains the exercise number. Okay, so let's try number 1. First I need to rearrange. A squared minus 8a, move the 15 over, equals 0. Factor. Okay, we need factors of 15. So 1 and 15, 3 and 5. When I add them together, I need a sum of 8. So my combination that would work here would be, and these are both going to be the same signs to get a positive, but they are going to both be negative. So actually negative 3, negative 5. When I do my outside, do a pencil here. When I do my outside, I get negative 5a. Inside is negative 3a. Put them together, negative 8a. So that's the one I need, combination. I'm going to do this. A minus 3 equals 0. So a will equal 3. A minus 5 equals 0. So a is 5. Now I'll go over here, find that combination in our list. And it's right there. 3 and 5. We're on number 1. We're going to take the word the and put that in there. Okay, another one that I wanted to quick do with you is number 10, because number 10 looks kind of funny. If you put it into that standard form, 16h squared, move the 25 over, equals 0. Notice it doesn't have a middle term. This is a special case. The middle term is canceled, or is kind of canceled out. And it's called the difference of squares. And when I say that, you probably remember that from algebra. So when we go to factor it, this one's easier to factor. Take the square root of this, 4h, 4h. Take the square root of 25, 5, 5. And then to get that middle term to cancel out, we're going to need 1 negative, 1 positive. So that equals 0. Solve. We get 4h equals 5, so h is 5/4. 4h equals negative 5, so h is negative 5/4. Go to your list of choices over here. See if you can find it. We're looking for a positive 5/4 and a negative 5/4. And there it is right there. Scared. Now it's going to go in number 10. Okay, got the hang of that. Turn your worksheet over. On the other side, you're going to do the same thing, but we're solving with the quadratic formula. So up at the top, notice where I left you a space to fill that in. I'm not going to give it to you. Go back to your notes, find that quadratic formula, and then we're going to use that to solve these. The standard form, ax squared bx plus c equals 0. So if it's not in that form, put it in that form. This is a is 1, b is 5, c is 4. Throw her into our formula, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared. Well, b squared is 25 minus 4. A is 1 times c is 4 all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. Okay, 4 times 4, 16. This is 25 minus 16 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. Let's see, I'm going to turn my paper sideways and do it over here. So I'm going to have x equals negative 5 plus or minus square root of 9 all over 2. Square root of 9, though, is just a regular old 3. Then separate it into two problems. So negative 5 plus 3 over 2, which is negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. And my other answer is negative 5 minus 3 over 2. That's negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. So go down here to our list. My answers were negative 1 and negative 4. There they are. Now the directions say look for the letter of the correct answer in the string of letters near the bottom of the page and cross it out each time it appears. So I'm going to look for any G's. Cross them out, and that's the only one I get. Okay. Any other ones that you do, remember to watch for your, like number 10. This one's A, B, C. Use the quadratic formula. Sometimes this number underneath the radical is not a perfect square. Like mine was a 9, worked out nicely to just a 3. If it's not, you're going to have to change it to decimal and then finish out the problem. Then look down here. You can see there are quite a few of them that are in decimal form, and that's because they did not come out to perfect squares. Alright, that's your assignment, and I'll be back tomorrow to see you guys.